I thought moving into that quiet neighborhood would give me peace. But the first night I noticed my neighbor standing outside my house, everything changed. At first I told myself it was nothing, just a coincidence, but then he came back the next night, and the next, and the worst part, he never knocked, he never spoke, he just watched. I moved into the house after my divorce. I needed a fresh start, somewhere quiet, somewhere safe. The place felt perfect, small, cozy, with a white fence and a porch that caught the evening light just right. It looked like the kind of home where nothing bad could ever happen. At least that's what I believed. The first night, I woke up around 2 a.m. I didn't know why. No noise, no dream. Just that strange feeling in my chest, like something wasn't right. I went to the kitchen to get some water. That's when I saw him. A man standing on the sidewalk across the street, completely still, facing my house. I froze. He wasn't moving, not even a little. Just standing there, watching. At first I tried to explain it. Maybe he was waiting for someone. Maybe he lived nearby. Maybe he was just on his phone and I couldn't see it. But something felt wrong. Very wrong. I slowly turned off the kitchen light and stepped back. For a second I thought he moved, but maybe that was just my imagination. I went back to bed, but I couldn't sleep. Every small sound made my heart race. I kept thinking about him standing there in the dark, watching. The next night, it happened again. Same time, same place, same man. This time I didn't go downstairs. I stayed in my bedroom and looked through the window, just slightly moving the curtain. He was there, exactly where he had been before. My heart started beating faster. Why would someone stand outside the same house 2 nights in a row at the exact same time? That's not normal. I told myself I was overthinking, but deep down, I knew I wasn't. The third night, I decided to test something. I turned off every light in the house. I stood behind the curtain where he couldn't see me, and I watched him. Minutes passed, 5, 10, 15. He didn't move, not a single step, not even once. Just staring straight at my house, at my window, at me, even though I knew he couldn't see me. That's when I felt it. The cold, heavy feeling in my chest. Fear, real fear. I grabbed my phone and thought about calling the police. But what would I say? There's a man standing outside. He wasn't breaking in. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't doing anything illegal. At least not yet, so I didn't call. And that was my first mistake. The next morning, I tried to act normal. I made coffee, checked my emails, even turned on music, hoping it would calm me down. But nothing helped, because something didn't feel right. And then I noticed it. Footprints in my front yard, right below my bedroom window. I stopped breathing. The sidewalk was across the street. So why were there footprints here? I walked outside slowly, my heart pounding so loud it almost hurt. The grass was pressed down, like someone had been standing there for a long time, looking up, looking directly at my window, looking at me while I slept. The chill ran down my spine. I looked around quickly. The street was quiet, empty, peaceful, like nothing had happened, but something had, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. That evening, I locked everything. Doors, windows, even the back entrance. I pushed a chair against the front door just in case. I told myself I was being careful, but the truth was, I was scared. When night came, I left all the lights on. I sat in the living room pretending to watch TV, but my eyes kept drifting to the window, waiting, watching. And then, at exactly 2 a.m., he appeared again. But this time, he wasn't across the street. He was standing right in front of my house, closer than ever. And that's when I realized something was very, very wrong. Because he wasn't just watching anymore. He was smiling. Slowly. Like he had been waiting for this moment, and in his hand, he was holding something small, something dark, but I couldn't see what it was. Not yet, and for some reason, I had a terrible feeling that whatever he was holding was meant for me. I told myself not to panic, but my body didn't listen. My hands were shaking so badly, I had to put the remote down on the floor. I couldn't even feel my fingers anymore. It was like my body already knew something terrible was about to happen. The man stood just outside the reach of the porch light, half in shadow, half in light. And that smile, it didn't look normal. It didn't look human. It looked planned, like he had been waiting for this exact moment. And then he moved, one slow step forward. My heart stopped. The light hit his face just enough for me to see his eyes. Wide, focused, locked directly on me. I dropped to the floor instantly, my breath catching in my throat. There was no way he could see me that clearly through the glass, right? But deep down, I knew. He could. Or at least, he knew I was there. I started crawling backward, trying to stay low, trying not to make a single sound. Every tiny movement felt loud, dangerous, like he could hear everything. Then I heard it. A sound that made my entire body freeze. Scratch, soft, slow, right outside the front door. I stopped moving. Another scratch, longer this time, like someone dragging their nails across the wood. My chest tightened. I couldn't breathe properly. This wasn't just watching anymore. This was something else, something worse. I reached for my phone with shaking hands and opened the emergency call screen. My finger hovered over the button. Just press it. Just call. But before I could, the scratching stopped. Completely. Silence. Heavy silence filled the house. I stayed frozen on the floor, listening. 1 minute passed, then another. Nothing. No footsteps, no breathing, no movement, just silence. Finally, I forced myself to stand up. My legs felt weak, like they might collapse under me at any second. I moved slowly toward the window again. Every step felt like a risk. Every second felt wrong. And then I looked outside. He was gone. Just gone. Like he had disappeared into the night. I stared at the empty space where he had been standing, waiting, hoping he wouldn't suddenly reappear. But he didn't. I didn't sleep that night, not even for a second. I sat in the corner of my living room with all the lights on, holding my phone, listening to every sound, every creak, every whisper of wind. Everything felt like a threat. By morning, I was exhausted, but I still couldn't relax. Something inside me kept saying this wasn't over, that this was just the beginning. Around noon, I finally found the courage to open the front door. Slowly, carefully. The sunlight should have made everything feel normal again. Safe again. But it didn't. Because the moment I looked at the door, I saw them. Scratches, long, thin, deep enough to leave marks in the wood, exactly where I'd heard the sound. My stomach dropped. I reached out and touched them. Fresh. Very fresh, like they had just been made hours ago. My hands started shaking again. And then I noticed something else. Something even worse. Right below the scratches. On the ground. There was something placed there. Carefully. Like a gift. Or a warning. I slowly bent down. My heart pounding louder with every second. It was a photograph. A printed photo of my house. At night. Taken from outside. From the exact spot where he had been standing. My breath caught in my throat. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what I saw in the window of the photo. A figure. Inside the house, standing near the window, watching him, watching me. I dropped the photo immediately, like it burned my skin, because in that moment, I understood something terrifying. That photo wasn't taken last night. It was taken earlier, before I even noticed him, before I even knew I was being watched. My heart started racing faster than ever. My thoughts spiraled out of control. How long had he been watching me? Days? Weeks? Longer? And then a worse thought hit me. Something that made my blood run cold. If he took this photo from outside, then who was the person inside the house? Because I live alone. At least, I thought I did. And that's when I heard it. A sound from inside the house, behind me. A floorboard creaked, slowly, deliberately, like someone had just taken a step, and I realized I wasn't alone anymore. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. Every instinct in my body told me to run, but my legs refused to move. The air inside the house felt heavy, too heavy, like something invisible was pressing down on my chest. Then I heard it again. A soft step right behind me. Slow, careful. Like whoever was inside didn't want to be heard, but it was too late. I'd already heard enough. My heart was pounding so loudly I was sure they could hear it. I forced myself to breathe, slow, quiet, think. I was standing in the doorway, half inside, half outside. If I ran now, I might escape. But what if they were faster? What if there was more than one person? That thought hit me hard, because now it wasn't just the man outside. There could be two or more. Watching, waiting, planning. I tightened my grip on the door and made a decision. I slammed it shut, hard. The sound echoed through the house. I quickly locked it, then added the chain, then pushed a chair against it. My hands moved fast, almost automatically, like my body knew what to do before my mind did. I stepped back slowly. The hallway in front of me was dark, still, silent, but I knew it wasn't empty. "I know you're here," I said. My voice shook. No response, of course, but the silence felt wrong. Too deep, too alive, like it was hiding something. I grabbed the nearest thing I could find, a kitchen knife. It wasn't much, but it was something. "I already called the police," I lied. Nothing. Then, a sound. Upstairs, a slow creak, like a door opening. My stomach dropped. Someone was really inside, and they were upstairs. My mind raced. Run, hide, fight. Nothing felt safe, but staying still felt worse, because if I waited, they could come to me. Slowly, quietly, without warning. I couldn't let that happen. I had to see. I had to know, even if it terrified me. I moved toward the stairs. Each step felt loud. Too loud. The house was completely silent again. No movement, no sound, just me and whoever was upstairs. I reached the bottom step, stopped, listened. Nothing. I swallowed and stepped up. One step, then another. The stairs creaked softly. I froze every time, waiting, listening. Still nothing. Halfway up, I felt something cold. A draft. Like a window was open, but I was sure I had locked everything, wasn't I? My heart started racing again. I reached the top, slowly looked down the hallway. All the doors were closed, except one. My bedroom. The door was slightly open, not wide, just enough. I knew I hadn't left it like that. Something had moved it. Someone. My hands tightened around the knife. Whoever was inside was in there. I stepped forward slowly. The floor creaked under my weight, too loud, too exposed. I stopped right in front of the door. My hand hovered in the air. I didn't want to open it, because once I did, everything would change. I took a breath and pushed the door. Slowly. The room was dark. Too dark. The curtains were closed, but I remembered leaving them open. Another detail that felt wrong. Another sign. I stepped inside. "Hello?" I whispered. My voice sounded small, weak. No answer. I moved further in, my eyes slowly adjusting. The bed, the desk, the closet. Everything looked normal. Too normal, and that made it worse, because something wasn't right. I turned toward the window, and then I saw it. A shadow, moving, behind the curtain. I froze, completely still. The shadow shifted again, slow, controlled, like someone was standing there, watching me. My heart nearly stopped. I raised the knife, my hands shaking. "Who's there?" I whispered. No answer. The shadow didn't move, just stayed, waiting. I stepped closer, slowly, carefully. Every second felt longer than the last. I reached out, my fingers almost touching the curtain. This was it. I had to know. I grabbed the fabric and pulled, fast. But there was no one there. Just an open window, wide open. Cold air rushing inside, the curtain moving slightly. That was it. Nothing else. I stood there, frozen, trying to understand, trying to breathe. If the window was open, then whoever was inside had left. Or maybe they were still here, watching, hiding somewhere I couldn't see. And that thought was far more terrifying than anything else. I stood there for a long time, just staring at the open window, trying to convince myself it meant nothing, that maybe I forgot to close it, that maybe the wind pushed it open. But deep down, I knew the truth. I would never leave a window open at night. Not after everything that had already happened, not after him. I slowly stepped closer. The cold air touched my face, making me shiver. It felt wrong, like the house itself was breathing. I leaned forward and looked outside. The street was quiet, empty, too quiet, too perfect, like nothing had ever happened. But something had, something terrible. I scanned the darkness, searching for any movement, any shadow, any sign. But there was nothing. And somehow, that made it worse, because if I couldn't see them, that didn't mean they weren't there. It just meant they were hiding, watching, waiting. I quickly shut the window and locked it. My hands were shaking again. My heart wouldn't slow down. Someone had been inside, right here, in my room, behind that curtain, maybe just seconds before I walked in, maybe even closer, maybe watching me the whole time. The thought made me feel sick. I stepped back. I couldn't stay there, not in that room, not in that house, not anymore. I turned and rushed out, down the hallway, down the stairs, faster this time, louder. I didn't care about the noise anymore. I just needed to get out. Now. I grabbed my keys from the table, almost dropped them. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I pulled the chair away from the door, unlocked it, opened it, and stepped outside. The cold night air hit me hard, but it didn't calm me. Nothing could calm me now. I moved away from the house, fast, almost running. Each step felt like I was escaping something I couldn't see. I didn't want to look back. I really didn't. But after a few steps, I did. And that's when I saw him. Standing at the corner of the street, the same man, the one who had been watching me every night. But this time, something was different. He wasn't hiding. He wasn't standing far away. He was closer, much closer, and he was looking straight at me. My heart dropped. I froze. He slowly raised his hand and pointed at the house, then at me, like he was connecting us, like he was trying to show me something or warn me. I couldn't move. I couldn't even think. Then he did something unexpected. He shook his head, slowly, back and forth. No, that's what it felt like he was saying no. Like he was telling me I didn't understand, that I was wrong about something, and then he turned and walked away. Calm, slow, like nothing had happened, just like that. He was gone. I stood there in silence, trying to understand. Why would he leave? Why would he warn me? Was it even a warning, or was it something else? Nothing made sense anymore. Not the watching, not the photo, not the man inside my house, and definitely not him. I looked back at the house. All the lights were still on. Everything looked normal, quiet, still. But I knew better now. That house wasn't safe, not anymore. And then I saw it. Movement. Upstairs, my bedroom window, a shadow, slow, careful, watching. My chest tightened. Someone was still inside, right now, watching me. I stepped back. Then another step. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I couldn't look away. The shadow moved closer, closer to the glass, slowly becoming clearer, more defined. And then, a face, pressed against the window, looking down at me, smiling, a wide, unnatural smile. But it wasn't the man from the street. This was someone else, someone I had never seen before, and that's when the truth hit me. Hard. The man outside was never the real danger. The real danger was already inside my house, and it had been there. Long before I ever moved in, I couldn't breathe. My eyes were locked on that face in the window, that smile, too wide, too calm, like it had been waiting for me to see it, waiting for this exact moment. My body finally reacted. I turned and ran. I didn't care where, I didn't care how far, I just needed distance, as much distance as possible. My footsteps echoed loudly on the empty street. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it might explode. I didn't stop until I reached the end of the block. Only then did I slow down. Only then did I turn around. The house stood there in the distance, silent, still, like nothing had happened. But I knew better. Someone was inside, and they had been there long before me. I pulled out my phone and finally did what I should have done from the start. I called the police. This time I didn't hesitate. My voice was shaking as I explained everything. The man outside, the footprints, the photo, the scratching, the face in the window. There was a pause on the line. Then the operator said officers were on the way. Minutes felt like hours. I kept watching the house from a distance, afraid to blink, afraid that if I looked away, something worse would happen. And then I saw it. The front door, slowly opening. My stomach dropped. No one was there, at least no one I could see. The door opened wider, then stopped. Just enough space for someone to step out. But no one did. It stayed like that, open, waiting. I felt a chill run through my entire body. Then suddenly, a shadow moved inside the doorway, quick, almost too fast to notice, but I saw it. Something was still there, watching. The police arrived a few minutes later, 2 cars, flashing lights breaking the silence. For a second, I felt relief, real relief, like it was finally over. But that feeling didn't last long. The officers approached me carefully as I explained everything again. This time slower, clearer. They listened, but I could see it in their eyes. Doubt, confusion, maybe even disbelief. Still, they moved toward the house, carefully. One officer pushed the front door open fully. Another stepped inside, weapons ready. I held my breath, waiting. Seconds passed, then a minute, then another. Nothing. No noise, no shouting, no struggle, just silence. Finally, one of them came back outside. His expression, strange. "You said someone was inside?" he asked. "Yes," I said quickly. "I saw them, in the window." He glanced back at the house, then at me. "We didn't find anyone." My heart dropped. "That's not possible," I said. "I saw them. They were right there." The second officer came out a moment later. "House is clear," he said. "Clear." The word didn't make sense. It couldn't be clear. Someone was there. I had seen them. I had felt them. I shook my head. "No, you don't understand." But before I could explain more, one of the officers said something that made everything worse. "There is something you should see." My stomach tightened. "What?" I asked. He hesitated for a second, then said, "We found something upstairs." My heart started racing again. "What is it?" He looked at me seriously. "In your bedroom." I felt cold. Very cold. "What did you find?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he gestured for me to follow him, and against every instinct telling me not to, I did, because I needed to know, even if I was afraid of the answer. We walked into the house together, slow, careful. The air inside felt even heavier now, different, like something had changed. We went upstairs, step by step, until we reached my bedroom door. It was open, just like before. I didn't want to go inside, but I had to. I stepped in slowly. My eyes scanned the room. Everything looked normal, at first, but then I saw it, on the wall, right across from the bed. Dozens of photos, pinned carefully. All of them. Of me. Sleeping, walking, living, inside the house. Taken from inside, from different angles, different days, different times. My legs went weak, because there was only one explanation. Whoever had been watching me had never been outside. They had been living inside the house the entire time, and the man outside was trying to warn me. But I realized it too late, because one of the photos was taken just minutes ago from behind me, standing in this room. And that meant only one thing. Whoever took it was still here. My heart stopped. I stared at the photo in my hands, my back, my shoulders, the exact clothes I was wearing right now, taken from inside the room just minutes ago, which meant one thing. They were still here. I slowly lifted my head. The officers were standing beside me, but something felt wrong. Too quiet, too still, like the house was holding its breath. "Did you check everywhere?" I asked. My voice barely sounded like mine. "Yes," one of them said. But his tone had changed, uncertain, not as confident as before. I pointed at the wall covered in photos. "They were taken from inside. They have to be here." The second officer stepped closer, studying the pictures. His expression shifted. "These aren't old," he said quietly. "I know," I whispered. Silence filled the room again, heavy, uncomfortable. And then, we heard it. A sound, very soft, coming from inside the walls, a faint movement, like something shifting, scraping, slow, deliberate. My entire body went cold. The officers froze. One of them slowly turned toward the sound. "Stay behind us," he said. But I couldn't move. I couldn't even breathe properly. The sound came again. Closer this time. From the wall next to the closet. A hollow space, hidden. Somewhere no one had checked. The officer stepped forward carefully. He pressed his hand against the wall, then knocked. A dull echo answered. Empty. Not solid. "There's something behind here," he said. The second officer moved quickly and pulled the closet aside. It scraped loudly across the floor, revealing something hidden. A narrow panel, almost invisible, blending perfectly into the wall. My head started spinning. I had lived here, slept here, every night, and I never noticed it. The officer grabbed the edge, pulled it open slowly. The panel creaked. Darkness behind it. A tight space, narrow, hidden. And then the smell hit, stale, heavy, like someone had been there for a long time. My chest tightened. The officer raised his flashlight. The beam cut through the dark, revealing a small hidden room. A mattress on the floor, empty food containers, bottles, clothes, and photos, hundreds of them. All of me. Sleeping, walking, living, every moment, every day, taken from inside. I felt like I was going to collapse. "He's been living here," the officer said. Not was, is, because then the light shifted, deeper inside, into the corner, a shape, curled, still, too still. No one moved, no one spoke. Then the shape moved, slowly, unfolding. A man, thin, pale, his eyes wide open, reflecting the light. And then he smiled. That same smile, the one from the window, cold, unnatural. The officer shouted, "Don't move!" But the man didn't react. He just stared at me. Only me. Like the officers weren't even there. Like I was the only person in the room. "You're finally here," he whispered. My heart dropped. Finally? What did that mean? "I've been waiting," he said. Calm. Too calm. The officers moved in, careful, weapons ready. But something felt wrong, because the man wasn't scared. He wasn't nervous. He looked relieved, like everything was going exactly how he wanted. "You weren't supposed to leave the house," he said softly. My stomach twisted. "What?" I whispered. He tilted his head slightly, still smiling. "The other one told you?" he said. My mind went blank. "The man outside," he continued. "He was trying to warn you." My chest tightened. I told him not to interfere. The room felt like it was spinning. "You chose the house," he said quietly. "And once you do, you stay." The officers grabbed him, forced him down, handcuffed him. But he didn't stop smiling, didn't stop looking at me, like none of this mattered, like it wasn't over. Maybe for him, it wasn't. They took him away, step by step, out of the hidden space, out of the house, but even then, his eyes stayed on me until he disappeared. I stood there shaking, unable to think, unable to understand. The house was searched again. Every room, every wall, every corner, nothing, no one else. But that didn't make me feel safe, because when I stepped outside, I saw him again. At the corner of the street, the man who had been watching me, standing still, silent, looking at me. This time, he wasn't smiling. He slowly raised his hand, pointed at the house, then at me, then shook his head. No. And in that moment, I understood something terrifying. It wasn't over, because that house was never meant for just one person. And somehow, I knew someone else was already inside.